Hello, my name is Helen. Today I'll be addressing the importance of creating inclusive learning environments for learners with diversity, providing specific strategies and examples drawn from my own classroom practice. We will explore the learning needs of one of my students and the steps myself, our school learning support team, his family has taken to incorporate reasonable adjustments to support the student inclusively. This is Liam's profile. Liam is 5 years old and he is being diagnosed of Down syndrome since he was little. Since he was diagnosed, Liam's mom has been able to identify Liam's learning needs, and one of those is to develop his speech. This is because Liam faces developmental delays and needs extra support to redirect him due to short-term memory, especially in concentrating and completing a task. Liam also faces challenges of being socially included with his peers, seeing him becoming easily shy away or overwhelmed in such competitive situations. To revive Liam with an equal opportunity to education and inclusion in this school, Liam is to be supported to regulate his self-reliant concentration, executive processing, and group participation skills. Moving forward, I would explore how we have supported Liam with reasonable adjustment, including supplementary and holistic teaching approaches. But first, I would love to address the cycle support for collaborative establishing a personal learning plan for Liam, so he can receive an equitable opportunity of education like his peers. In reference to setting up an ideal plan for Liam, this is to address the first step in the cycle. I find this way a powerful method to share resource and expertise, providing the necessary outcome. During this meeting, Liam's mom informed me of the work she has done with Liam in the past with other professionals, teachers' aides, speech pathologists, behavior therapists, etc. This enables us to address the circumstance of his support cycle as we establish the level of adjustment needed for Liam, identifying his needs for self-management skill, development, and communication. Although Liam's level of adjustment does not qualify for external funding, our school receives funding from our members in Liam's class. A school support officer works with our classroom for 5 hours each day. Their contribution is to currently teach and support Liam. We will discuss later in this presentation. Within the third step, we created a draft PLP, planning of strategies and reasonable adjustment to implement and support Liam reasonable development of skills. However, to support Liam development and implementation of reasonable adjustment, we teachers must become familiar with children's strengths and interests so that their goals are very challenging and achievable can be established with the PLP. In essence, the teacher, in conjunction with the student family and other stakeholders, can stroke the PLP for Liam by answering the following key questions, which is: where is the student now? Where should the student be? How will they get to where they are? How will they know when they get there? In Liam's case, we considered factors such as social and language skills as his strength and development. So here is the draft we developed for Liam, and we review after every 6 weeks. And unfortunately, I had issues pasting the NCCD template, so I had to personally draft out these plans myself on my desktop. Here is another individual learning plan draft out for Liam, but at this time myself and the teacher aide has come about, but at this stage we haven't met Liam's parents to gain their insight before signing off the plan, as the disability standard for education requires school learning authorities and support team must consult with families about appropriate adjustment. Most collaboration with families ensures that all families are well informed about the learning needs of the students, creating a consistent approach to support in and outside of the school. In Liam's case, Him and his family receives funding under the National Disability Insurance Scheme. This means that out of school, Liam receives funding for his visit to his speech therapist, occupational therapist, and other participation and support programs. As these fundings exclude support in his school, the collaboration between Liam's parents and our learning support team is even more significant in sharing documentations and strategies from his outside professionals. Now that we have talked about the significance of working collaboratively with all parties, we can look more closely on the strategies implemented to support Liam within an inclusive classroom through differentiation and reasonable adjustment. It is important to remember that reasonable adjustment can be classified as the minimum change needed to ensure that students with disabilities are able to access the curriculum and its delivery on the same basis as other children. Yet we do not want to make the task too easy for the learners by not implementing a universal design for learning. I am able to address Liam's area of need while also benefiting the whole class. The first strategy I would like to discuss is whether teachers create multiple ways or options to engage children to become engaged and motivated in their learnings. Social stories are concept that was invented by Kennel and Phil in 1991 to increase the skills of people living with Down syndrome. The objective to share information, which is often a brief description of events carrying around the subject and explaining why. Here is an example of a learning story which stays on Liam's desk, assisting him to process structure of his school days. Well, this is an individual social story, visual routines and charts around the room, and the daily routines are also beneficial for students within the class. As mentioned earlier, Liam does not receive fundings. However, however, our classroom with the teacher's aide is always present in the mornings to warmly greet Liam and hold a conversation about his day so far or engage him in a simple game using signs. In addition of Liam's social stories, I have established a quiet space in our classroom for Liam within the very stimulating area. There are 3 resources and calming materials for him to complete, supporting him to reflect on his emotions in a relaxed environment when he feels overwhelmed. When Liam is in the playground and uses non-verbal language sign, is an evidence that Liam has reached his or achieved the sign communication goal. Liam is able to use the zones of regulation to identify his zone or color that goes with his emotions, providing a key and suggested strategies to obtain from his helpers to support his self-regulations. Like you can see in the image there, we have different emotions with their signs. So just as the rest area, the go, slow, stop, these are signs that we can use to improve his sign skills and help in communication. In the text strategy that we have come about, I would love to discuss also creating smaller flexible groups in my classroom using the peer scaffolding by creating small groups for learning activities. The group has been carefully selected with clear goals, roles, and clever responsibilities. So I did for each member so that Liam can develop his execute he can develop and execute processing and group participation skills. For example, we exerted a missing puzzle which can aid Liam in his critical thinking capacity. In this lesson plan, the teacher sets an expectation for the activity, establishing that responsibilities, utilizing the my turn puzzle missing to determine who is next to pick the missing puzzle. Teacher transitions students to their work tables. They just go one after a time and set timer. Teacher works around tables, discussing work with teams and providing support when needed. Teacher aid Liam with his workload. Set a puzzle in the way, this is the way that we prepare the arena. We set a puzzle in the way they are familiar with. Puzzle is to be placed on the table, for example, alphabetical or numerical puzzle. Utilize turn takings. The resources will be set up during morning after morning affirmation. The list of group of children will be divided into groups. Supplementary strategies. Each child with their group must be observed and given the necessary support to predict the missing letters or number. A teacher aide is needed at Liam's table to observe and provide support in terms of communicating with Liam to achieve the missing alphabet and numbers. Assessment and student. Teacher observation during capacity tasks. Worksheets provide work samples of student understanding. Teachers are aware of each child's style of communication and provide problem solving skills. The fourth strategy I would love to talk about, discuss, it relates to the UDO principle of action and expressions, which expects students to be given their own way of approaching tasks and materials, and this way they can approach what they have learned, building upon Liam's learning interest in targets and his attitude for using interactive communication technologies. In this strategy, we use the assistive technology, a communication app on tablet device. This gives opportunity for teachers to focus on teaching of vocabulary before matching images and text size. Appraiser of Speech is also an app that allows you to take a familiar melody and make up a word that allows children to complete what was missing. I find this very suitable for them to help promote his science skills and make him be very, very communicative. Planning for a successful inclusion of diverse learners and meeting the needs of our students with learning differences requires thoughtful time, planning, and collaborations between general education teachers and specialists. With the NCCD, we were able to consult and collaborate with the student or parent carer, assess and identify the needs of students, provide reasonable adjustment to address the identified needs of the students. We monitored and review the impact of adjustment every 6 weeks collaboratively. I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful presentation and get a chance to view the podcast. Thank you.